Zero Dark 30. The Hindu Kush mountains are a void of absolute black, swallowing everything but the faint, rhythmic hum of modified Black Hawks. Inside the bird, the world is filtered through a ghostly phosphoric green. You're looking through $40,000 of GPNVG-18 glass. The legendary 4 eyes. Your heart rate? 64 beats per minute. Not because you're calm, but because you're a machine. You checked the laser on your HK 4161 last time. To your left, a Belgian Malinois with titanium-capped teeth stares into the dark, sensing the adrenaline you've learned to suppress. In 30 seconds, you're going to fast rope into a compound that doesn't exist on any public map to eliminate a target the State Department won't admit is there. This isn't the SEALs you see in the recruitment posters. This isn't the Navy you joined to see the world. This is the development group, the Tier 1. The tip of the spear that the president swings when words fail and diplomacy dies. Most men dream of this. Most SEALs fail to reach this. But for you, this is just Tuesday. But how did a kid from a small town become a ghost in the machine? To understand the legend, we have to go back to the moment you decided that being elite simply wasn't enough. Welcome to the life of a SEAL Team 6 operator. To the world, every man wearing a trident is a hero, but within the Naval Special Warfare Command, there is a line drawn in the sand. On one side, you have the vanilla SEAL teams, the Tier 2 units. They are elite, yes, they are the best of the best. But on the other side of that line lies DEVGRU, the Naval Special Warfare Development Group. Think of it this way, if the regular SEAL teams are a high-performance scalpel, SEAL Team 6 is a laser-guided ghost. The distinction isn't just about funding or fancy toys, it's about the mission set. While a Tier 2 team might conduct a large-scale raid or a standard reconnaissance mission, Tier 1 is reserved for national missions. We're talking about high-value target decapitation, counter-proliferation of nuclear weapons, and hostage rescues where a single inch of error means an international disaster. When you're in the regular teams, you work for the Navy. When you're in the unit, you work for the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. You report directly to the Pentagon and sometimes the Oval Office itself. But getting there isn't a promotion, it's a rebirth. You have to give up your hard-earned reputation in the regular teams and walk into the green team selection as a nobody. You're volunteering to be broken all over again, just for the chance to operate in the shadows of the shadows. Because in this world, being special is the baseline. We're looking for the exceptional. Welcome to the green team. If you're here, it means you've already survived BUD/ACE. You've served in the regular SEAL teams for years, and you've been handpicked for a shot at the big leagues. But don't get comfortable. Yeah, in the regular teams, they wanted to see if you would quit. In green team, they already know you won't quit. Now, they want to see if you're the right kind of monster. For the next 6 to 9 months, you aren't just a student. You're a ghost under a microscope. Every senior operator in the squadron is watching you. They aren't just looking at your shot groups or your swim times. They're looking for the switch. The switch is the ability to be a calm, calculated professional 1 second and a violent force of nature the next. Then immediately returning to baseline calm once the threat is neutralized. If you can't control the beast inside, you're out. The attrition rate is brutal. We're talking about veteran SEALs, men who have already seen combat, being sent back to their old teams with their gear in a trash bag because they lack the surgical precision required for Tier 1. You will be pushed to the point of psychological collapse, where your true character is exposed. Because when the president sends the unit, there is no room for ego. There is only room for the mission. Most people think special operations is about physical dominance. They're wrong. At the Tier 1 level, physical fitness is just the price of admission. The real war is fought between your ears. In Green Team, they don't just test your muscles, they map your psyche. You'll spend hours in a windowless room strapped to a polygraph. The box. They'll ask you about your childhood, your finances, your failures, and your darkest impulses. They aren't looking for saints. They're looking for unbreakable transparency. If you can be blackmailed, you're a liability. If you can't keep a secret from your own shadow, you're a ghost that hasn't died yet. Then comes the silent burden. Can you look your wife in the eye and lie about where you're going for the next 6 months? Can you disappear on a moment's notice without a goodbye? The unit needs men who can compartmentalize their lives so deeply that their civilian identity becomes a mask they forget they're wearing. They are looking for a very specific psychological profile. The controlled sociopath? Someone who can be the kindest father at breakfast and the most efficient predator on the planet by midnight. If your mental blueprint has even a hairline fracture, the weight of the secrets you'll carry will shatter you long before the enemy does. Now, the mental games stop and the lead starts flying. Welcome to the House of Horrors, the most advanced kill house on the planet. In the regular teams, you learned how to clear a room. In DEVGRU, you learn how to own it. This isn't just shooting, it's surgical violence. You're moving through a maze of plywood and steel in total darkness, equipped with live ammunition. To your left, a silhouette of a terrorist holding a detonator. To your right, a mother holding a child. You have 0.2 seconds to decide who lives and who dies. If you're slow, you fail. If you're fast but inaccurate, you fail. There is no good enough at Tier 1. We call it the flow. It's a state of mind where the HK416 becomes an extension of your nervous system. You don't think about the trigger press. You don't think about the recoil. You become a liquid force, flowing into the corners, filling the gaps, and neutralizing threats before they even realize the door has been breached. Every day, you'll burn through thousands of rounds until your hands bleed and your shoulders bruise. You'll practice failure drills until you can clear a jammed weapon in the middle of a gunfight without looking down. Why? Because when the mission goes loud in a zero visibility environment, chaos is your only constant. And if you can't master the chaos in training, the chaos will bury you in the field. The thunder of the kill house finally goes silent. The stinging scent of cordite lingers in your nostrils. But for the first time in 9 months, the screaming instructors are quiet. Out of the dozens of elite SEALs who started this journey with you, only a handful remain standing. You're called into a room that officially doesn't exist. There are no cameras here, no families in the stands, no brass bands playing the Navy hymn. This isn't a graduation, it's an induction into a cult of shadows. A senior operator, a man whose face has been weathered by a decade of Tier 1 missions, stands before you. He doesn't give a speech about heroics, he simply hands you a gold trident. But as your fingers close around it, you realize this one feels heavier than the one you earned in Coronado. It carries the weight of every redacted mission, every fallen brother whose name will never be etched on a public memorial, and the absolute burden of the silent professional. From this second, your identity is erased, your social media is scrubbed, your name is replaced by a call sign. To the world, you are a ghost. To your family, you're just working at a desk in Virginia. You've earned the right to operate at the tip of the spear, but you've also signed away your right to ever be recognized for the history you're about to write. Welcome to the unit. You've made it to the top of the mountain, but as you look around at the veterans in the room, you realize the climb has only just begun, because tomorrow you aren't a hero, you're just the new guy. You've survived Green Team. You've got the gold on your chest. You walk into the squadron headquarters at Dam Neck, expecting a hero's welcome. Instead, you get a bucket, a mop, and a nickname you're going to hate. The FNG, the fucking new guy. In the regular teams, you were probably the lead breacher, the top sniper, or the guy everyone looked up to. Here, you're the guy who makes the coffee, cleans the cage where the gear is stored, and carries the heaviest, most annoying equipment on training hikes. Your previous accolades, they don't exist. Your trident. Everyone else in the room has one, and theirs has more salt on it than yours ever will. This is the phase of shut up and color. You don't offer tactical advice. You don't brag about your previous deployments. You show up 30 minutes early, you leave an hour late, and you keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Why this hazing? Because the veterans need to know if your ego is under control. In a Tier 1 environment, a man who thinks he knows everything is a man who gets his brothers killed. You are being watched every second, not just how you shoot, but how you handle being the low man on the totem pole. If you can't handle cleaning the floor with a smile, they won't trust you to handle a multi-million-dollar hostage rescue. You're earning your seat at the table, one menial task at a time. In the civilian world, you have colleagues. In the regular military, you have brothers in arms. In SEAL Team 6, you have something else entirely. You have a cell. The squad culture is built on a foundation of shared misery and brutal honesty. As the new guy, you'll be subjected to what we call pressure testing. It's not just pranks, though you'll certainly find your gear frozen in a block of ice or your locker relocated to the roof. It's about trust in the micro moment. During a live fire drill, a veteran might intentionally induce a malfunction in your weapon or disappear during a room clearing just to see if you panic. They want to see if you'll cover their back when the plan falls apart. They are looking for the silent clicks, at that moment when you stop thinking about your own survival and start moving as a single multi-headed organism. In this room, your rank doesn't protect you from criticism. A Master Chief will stand in a circle with a new guy and take a verbal beating during an after-action review, AAR. If you messed up, you own it. If you lie to cover a mistake, you're gone. Trust is the only currency that matters here. Once you've bled with them, failed with them, and finally succeeded with them, you stop being a guest and start being a part of the walls. You've passed the test of character. Now, it's time to give you the tools that make you a god in the dark. In the world of Tier 1 operations, the night doesn't just belong to you, it's your greatest ally. But to own the darkness, you need more than just standard issue gear. You need the GPNVG-18 ground panoramic night vision goggles. Most people are used to the dual tube or monocular vision you see in movies, a narrow green tunnel that gives you about 40 degrees of vision. It's like looking through 2 toilet paper rolls. But the GPNVG-18? It's a game changer. With 4 tubes instead of 2, your field of view explodes to 97 degrees. You don't have to turn your head to clear a corner. Your peripheral vision does it for you. The price tag for this tactical advantage? Roughly $40,000. That's more than the average American's annual salary, strapped to the front of your Ops Core carbon helmet. These aren't just gadgets. They are the reason why the unit can move through a pitch black compound at full sprint while the enemy is still fumbling for a light switch. When you flip these down, the world turns into a high-definition white phosphor landscape. You see the heat rising off a hidden guard's breath. You see the tripwire as thin as a spider web. To the enemy, you are a ghost in the shadows. To you, the enemy is a glowing target in a world where you are the only one who can see. This isn't just night vision, it's God mode. You're no longer just the guy with the meat. You've earned your seat in the bird. As a rank 2 squad member, you are now a functional cell in the DEVGRU organism. You've been assigned a specific role. Maybe you're a secondary breacher or a heavy weapons specialist, but more importantly, you've just received your first deployment orders. The transition from training to the real world is a punch to the gut. It's one thing to shoot paper targets in a climate-controlled kill house in Virginia. It's another thing entirely to step off a ramp into the humid, soul-crushing heat of a hostile AO, where the air smells like burning trash and spent diesel. This is where the green team polish meets the dirt of reality. Your gear feels heavier. Every shadow looks like a threat. You realize that the men to your left and right aren't just instructors anymore. They are your life insurance. And for the first time, you are theirs. In rank 2, you learn the art of the loadout. You spend hours obsessing over your plate carrier, moving a pouch half an inch, because that half inch might save you a microsecond during a reload. You're quiet, you're observant, and you're hungry to prove that the gold trident on your chest wasn't a mistake. But as you prepare for your first kinetic strike, you realize that your most important piece of gear isn't the armor. It's the weapon in your hands, a weapon that is as much a part of the unit's identity as the operators themselves. In the regular military, your rifle is a tool. In the unit, it's a masterpiece of lethal engineering. Meet the HK-416A5, the undisputed king of Tier 1 firepower. Why did DEVGRU abandon the standard Colt M4 that the rest of the Navy uses? It comes down to one word: reliability. The standard M4 uses a direct impingement system that blows hot gas and carbon directly into the bowl. It's dirty, it's hot, and in the middle of a high-intensity gunfight, it can choke. The 416 is different. It uses a proprietary short-stroke gas piston system. It runs cooler, it stays cleaner, and most importantly, it keeps firing even after being submerged in salt water or dragged through the fine silt of the Afghan desert. But your 416 isn't off the shelf. It's a Frankenstein of high-end parts. You've got a 10.4-inch barrel for tight indoor spaces, a Remington R AHG rail for a rock-solid grip, and an EOTech sight paired with a G33 magnifier. On the end of the barrel, a suppressor that doesn't just muffle the sound, but hides the muzzle flash from enemy night vision. When you pull that trigger, you aren't just firing a bullet, you're delivering a $12,000 package of precision technology. This is the same platform that ended the world's most wanted man in Abbottabad. It's heavy, it's expensive, and it's the only thing you trust when the world starts exploding around you. But even the best rifle is useless if you can't get to the target. And in the unit, getting there is an art form of its own. You've got the gear, you've got the rifle, and you've got the team. But how do you get 40 operators, 2 K9s, and 3 tons of classified equipment from a base in Virginia to a jungle in the Philippines in under 12 hours? Without anyone knowing you left. Welcome to the invisible world of Tier 1 logistics. When the unit moves, the world's gears turn in silence. You aren't flying commercial. You're boarding a C-17 Globemaster that has been cleared for a Priority 1 flight path, meaning every air traffic controller from DC to Manila moves civilian planes out of your way. But the real magic happens in the Ghost Fleet. You're backed by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers. These are pilots who fly modified little birds and Chinooks at treetop level, in total darkness, using terrain-following radar that allows them to hide from enemy air defenses. While you're in the air, a dedicated cell at the NSA is feeding live satellite imagery directly to your tablet. You aren't looking at a map, you're looking at a real-time heat map of the target house. You know exactly which room the target is in, what he's wearing, and even the frequency of the radio he's using. The US government spends billions of dollars just to ensure that when you step off that ramp, you have every possible advantage. You are a scalpel, and the entire weight of the American military-industrial complex is the hand that guides you. But once you hit the ground, technology takes a back seat to human instinct. And that's when the man at the front of the line becomes the most important person on Earth. You've reached rank 3. You are no longer just a member of the stack, you are the point man, the tip of the spear's tip. In the world of Tier 1, there is no position more respected or more dangerous. When the team hits a door, you are number 1. You are the first face the enemy sees, and you are the first to taste the air of an uncleared room. They call it having a third eye. It's not magic. It's a hyper-awareness born from 10,000 hours of repetition. While the rest of the team is focused on their sectors, your brain is processing the invisible. You're looking for the slight discoloration in the floorboards that suggests a pressure plate. You're sniffing for the faint scent of battery acid that gives away an IED. You're listening for the microscopic click of a safety being flicked off behind a thin curtain. As the point man, your life expectancy in a heavy contact is measured in heartbeats. You don't have the luxury of looking behind you. You trust with a religious fervor that the man at number 2 has your back because your entire world is the 180 degrees in front of your barrel. You are the navigator of fate. If you turn left, the team turns left. If you stop, the world stops. It takes a cold-blooded breed of calm to walk into a fatal funnel, that narrow doorway where all enemy fire is concentrated, knowing you are the primary target. But in DEVGRU, the point man isn't just a scout, he's the shield. And when the shield gets dented, you need the man who can stitch a soul back together under fire. In the unit, we have a saying: everything is a weapon if you use it right. But some weapons have a heartbeat. Meet the multi-purpose canine, or MPC. Usually a Belgian Malinois, leaner, faster, and more aggressive than a German Shepherd. To a civilian, he's a good boy. To an insurgent in a dark tunnel, he's a four-legged nightmare moving at 30 miles per hour. These dogs are Tier 1 operators in their own right. They don't just run and bite, they are equipped with gear that costs more than a luxury SUV. They wear K9 storm ballistic vests to protect their vitals from shrapnel and gunfire. They have their own specialized doggles, night vision optics that allow them to see in the same phosphoric green as you do. Some even carry high-definition cameras on their backs, streaming a dog's eye view of a target building directly to the commander's tablet miles away. And then there are the teeth. You've heard the rumors about titanium teeth. Here's the reality. If a dog breaks a fang during training or a mission, the Navy doesn't retire them. They replace the tooth with a titanium cap. It's stronger, it's permanent, and when that dog snarls in the moonlight, the glint of metal is often the last thing a high-value target sees before they're taken down. But the most high-tech part of the K9 isn't the gear, it's the bond. A DEVGRU dog will jump out of a plane at 30,000 feet, strapped to his handler, without a second of hesitation. Why? Because he doesn't care about geopolitics or the mission. He only cares about the man holding the leash. He is the ultimate quiet professional, and in a world of high-tech sensors, his nose is still the only thing that can't be jammed. Physics is the ultimate lockpicker, and as a breach specialist in the unit, you are its master. While the point man owns the room, you own the entrance. You don't just knock, you rewrite the architecture of the building in a fraction of a second. This isn't just about slapping C4 on a hinge, it's a mathematical science. You're calculating net explosive weight in your head while standing in a dark hallway, heart hammering against your ribs. Too little, and the door stays shut. Too much, and the overpressure kills your own team in the stack. You carry a breacher's kit that would make a construction crew jealous. Specialized saw blades, hydraulic hooligan bars, and the wall banger. A charge designed to turn a solid brick wall into a pile of dust without collapsing the roof. The moment of truth is the 3-2-1 execute. There's a specific bone-shaking thump that you feel in your teeth rather than hear in your ears. As the smoke blooms, you aren't waiting for the dust to settle. You're already pushing through the debris, following the point man into the chaos you just created. You are the architect of the surprise, the man who turns a fortress into a trap. But as you move deeper into your career, you realize that blowing doors open is the easy part. The hard part is deciding whose lives you're willing to gamble with when you lead the men through them. Promotion in the unit isn't about a bigger paycheck, it's about a heavier soul. When you reach rank 4 and become a team lead or leading petty officer, your world shifts on its axis. Up until now, your primary job was to be the most lethal version of yourself. Now, your job is to make sure 16 other men don't die because of a mistake you made. The transition is jarring. You're still in the stack, you're still breaching doors, but your tactical straw has widened. You aren't just looking at your sector anymore. You're managing the tempo. You're listening to the radio chatter from the snipers outside, the pilots above, and the command center back home, all while rounds are snapping over your head. This is where the micro decisions happen. In the heat of a chaotic raid, you have to decide, do we push forward into the unknown to secure the target, or do we hold and treat a wounded teammate? Every time you give the green light, you're gambling with the lives of men who are like brothers to you. The weight of accountability at rank 4 is what separates the warriors from the leaders. You're the one who has to stand in front of the squadron commander if a mission fails. You're the one who has to look a teammate's wife in the eye if things go wrong. You realize that the most dangerous weapon you now carry isn't your rifle, it's your voice on the radio. But as heavy as this responsibility feels, you're about to realize that the unit's power extends far beyond the battlefield. You're about to become a piece on a global chessboard. Most people think of war as armies moving across borders. But in the 21st century, the most important battles are the ones that never make the evening news. This is why SEAL Team 6 exists. They are not just soldiers, they are the president's hammer. While the regular military is governed by Title 10 of the US Code, Standard Military Operations, the unit often operates under Title 50. This is the world of special activities and covert action. When a situation is too sensitive for a drone strike and too dangerous for a diplomatic cable, the National Command Authority reaches for DEVGRU. Why? Because a Tier 1 strike offers something a full-scale invasion doesn't: plausible deniability. If a squad of operators vanishes into the night after neutralizing a threat in a country we aren't technically at war with, the gears of global politics keep turning without a hitch. You are a tool of foreign policy. Your missions can stabilize a collapsing regime or decapitate a terrorist cell before they can launch a global strike. You are the reason why certain world leaders sleep with one eye open. You are the ultimate deterrent. In this rank, you realize that your rifle isn't just killing a target. It's sending a message from the Oval Office to the rest of the world. We can touch you anywhere, anytime, and you'll never see us coming. If you look at a map of the world's conflict zones, you're looking at the unit's office. But they aren't where the armies are. They are in the gray the space in between peace and open war in the South China Sea. While giant carriers play a game of chicken, DEVGRU operators are already there. They are the ghosts in the water, practicing subsurface infiltration to place sensors on undersea cables or mapping the hulls of adversary warships. They are the silent guarantee that the world's shipping lanes stay open or close at a moment's notice. In Eastern Europe, they are the shadow mentors working in the dark to prepare local partisans for the unthinkable. They aren't there to fight a conventional front. They are there to ensure that if a border is crossed, the resistance is already Tier 1 certified. And in Africa, from the Sahel to the Horn, they are hunting the shadows of shadows. When a pirate cell or a terrorist faction gains too much ground, the unit doesn't send a battalion. They send a single squad under a moonless sky. By sunrise, the threat has evaporated, and the official report simply reads, "No US personnel were involved. You are the invisible hand that maintains the Pax Americana. You spend your life living out of a deployment bag, jumping from desert heat to Arctic cold in a matter of hours. You see the world not as a collection of countries, but as a series of targets and tactical advantages. But as you navigate this global chessboard, you realize that the most important link in the chain isn't the technology or the politics. It's the man who holds it all together, the man who has survived long enough to become the chief." In the United States Navy, there is a saying that has echoed through the hulls of ships for over a century. The Navy is run by its chiefs. But inside the halls of SEAL Team 6, that isn't just a saying, it's the law of the land. Welcome to Rank 5, the Chief Petty Officer. Reaching this rank in the unit is a transformation. You've survived the kinetic chaos of your younger years. You've led teams through the breach. Now you step into the role of the backbone. You're no longer just a shooter. You are the institutional memory of the squadron. The power of a DEVGRU chief is immense. When a mission is being planned, the commanding officer, an 05 or 06, will look to you before making a final call. Why? Because you've seen more combat than most generals. You are the bridge between the high-level strategy of the Pentagon and the gritty reality of the operators on the ground. If the chief says the plan won't work, the plan changes, period. But the title of chief comes with a silent, heavy burden. You are the keeper of the culture. You're the one who pulls a cocky young operator aside and reminds him of the quiet professional code. You're the one who recognizes the early signs of PTSD in a brother before he even realizes it himself. You are the mentor, the judge, and the protector of the unit's soul. In the world of Tier 1, officers may give the orders, but the chiefs ensure those orders are worth following. When people hear the word diplomacy, they think of handshakes, ballrooms, and signed treaties. But there is a darker version, a version written in suppressed gunfire and footprints that disappear with the tide. This is shadow diplomacy. And at rank 5 as a chief, you are the one holding the pen. In the world of Tier 1, a mission isn't just about neutralizing a target, it's about managing the fallout. Imagine a high-value target is hiding in a country that is technically a US ally, but secretly harboring terrorists. Sending a drone strike is an act of war. Sending a battalion is an invasion. But sending a 4-man element from the unit, that's a surgical adjustment. This is the art of plausible deniability. You are operating in the black. No uniforms, no American markings, sometimes using weapons that can't be traced back to the Department of Defense. If you are killed or captured, the official line from Washington is simple: we have no knowledge of this operation. You are a ghost, and ghosts don't have passports. As a chief, you coordinate with CIA handlers and JSOC liaisons to ensure that your tactical actions align with the National Security Council's secret objectives. You realize that sometimes the goal isn't to kill the enemy, but to acquire him for interrogation without the local government ever knowing he's gone. You are playing a high-stakes poker game where the chips are international borders and the prize is global stability. But as the unit evolves, so does the enemy. And to stay ahead, the unit must undergo a tactical evolution that changes the very way they fight. In the unit, we have a grim saying: the SOPs are written in blood. Success is a poor teacher, but failure is a masterclass. To understand why SEAL Team 6 is so lethal today, you have to look at the moments when everything went wrong. You think of Operation Red Wings or the nightmare on Roberts Ridge at Takur Gar. These weren't just battles, they were tactical earthquakes that forced the unit to evolve or die. We learned that even the best operators are vulnerable if the communication link breaks, or if air support is 5 minutes too late. We stopped being cowboys and started being data-driven predators. We revolutionized the way we use ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. We learned that we don't just need a radio, we need a redundant encrypted mesh network that can survive a mountain collapse. We learned that a quick reaction force, the QRF, needs to be spinning their rotors before the boots even hit the ground. Every mistake made in the mountains of Afghanistan or the streets of Iraq was dissected, analyzed, and integrated into the training of the next generation. You don't just do a mission, you conduct a post-mortem on every single bullet fired. This relentless evolution is why when the call came for the Bin Laden raid, the unit didn't just have a plan, they had a decade of failing forward backing them up. But as you climb higher into the ranks, you realize that the scars aren't just tactical, they're cultural, and that's where the real trouble begins. At rank 6, as a senior chief, your job description changes once again. You are no longer just a tactical advisor or a squad leader. You are the keeper of the flame. You are the living embodiment of the unit's culture, and your primary mission is to protect the brand, not the one you see on t-shirts, but the sacred silent reputation of the tier 1 community. But at this level, you start to see the cracks in the foundation. For decades, the SEAL code was simple. I do not advertise the nature of my work nor seek recognition for my actions. But the world has changed. Since the Bin Laden raid, the quiet professional has become a dying breed. As a senior chief, you're now the one dealing with the Hollywood problem. You see operators you trained, men you bled with, leaving the unit and immediately signing book deals or launching podcasts. You watch as secrets that were paid for in blood are traded for likes and followers. It's a bitter pill to swallow. You're the one who has to tell a young talented operator that his social media presence is a threat to the team's security. You are the gatekeeper of the legacy. You spend your days ensuring that the arrogance of success doesn't rot the unit from the inside. You remind them that the trident is a loan, not a gift, and it can be taken back at any time. You are the man who holds the line between a professional military unit and a group of celebrity mercenaries. But as you fight to keep the secrets in the shadows, you realize that some secrets are so heavy, they eventually crush the men who carry them. For decades, the men of SEAL Team 6 lived by a simple, unbreakable creed. I do not advertise the nature of my work, nor seek recognition for my actions. They were the ghosts that guarded America's sleep, but in the modern era, that silence hasn't just been challenged, it's been shattered for a price. Welcome to the era of the celebrity SEAL, out. It started as a trickle and turned into a flood after the Bin Laden raid. Suddenly, the shadows were no longer enough. Operators began trading their non-disclosure agreements for book deals, movie consultations, and six-figure speaking tours. We saw the rise of the tactical influencer, where tactical secrets paid for in blood were suddenly being demonstrated for likes on Instagram. Within the walls of Damneck, this is seen as the ultimate betrayal. To the old guard, these men are sellouts who have placed their own egos above the safety of the team. When you reveal how you breached a door or the specific frequencies of your comms, you aren't just telling a story. You're giving the enemy a roadmap to kill the next generation of operators. JSOC's response has been a cold, hard hammer. Security clearances revoked, pensions threatened, legal battles over unauthorized disclosures. The Pentagon has made it clear, if you talk, you are no longer one of us. But the damage is done. The myth of the quiet professional is dying, replaced by a culture where the most dangerous weapon isn't a rifle, it's a ghost-written memoir. The question isn't just about security anymore. It's about the soul of the unit. Have we traded our mystique for a spot on a podcast? May 2nd, 2011, Operation Neptune Spear. It was the mission that defined a generation of warriors and etched SEAL Team 6 into the history books forever. But for the men inside the squadron, it wasn't just a victory. It was the beginning of a civil war. In the regular SEAL teams, the rule is, the mission is the credit. But when the most wanted man in history was neutralized, the temptation of the spotlight became too much for the Brotherhood to bear. Suddenly, the silence that had protected the unit for 30 years was replaced by a toxic debate. Who actually pulled the trigger? On one side, you had operators coming forward to claim the title of the shooter, signing multi-million-dollar book deals, and appearing on primetime news. On the other, the old guard and the command staff watched in horror as the internal details of the raid, details that were supposed to be taken to the grave, were laid bare for public consumption. The fallout was radioactive. Best friends stopped speaking. Lawsuits over non-disclosure agreements began to fly. The Pentagon launched investigations into unauthorized disclosures, but the deepest wound was to the unit's soul. The Bin Laden raid proved that even the world's most elite warriors aren't immune to the lure of fame and fortune. For the first time, the quiet professional was no longer a ghost. He was a brand. And as a leader in the unit, you have to decide, can the Brotherhood ever be repaired? Or has the trident been permanently tarnished by the greed for a legacy? You've reached the summit of the enlisted mountain, Master Chief. In the regular Navy, there are thousands of Master Chiefs. In SEAL Team 6, you could fit them all in a small conference room. By now, your body is a roadmap of scars, titanium plates, and chronic pain. But your mind has become a supercomputer of unconventional warfare. At rank 7, you are no longer in the stack. Your days of being the first man through the door are over. Now, your battlefield is the JOC, the Joint Operations Center. You are the senior enlisted advisor to 4-star generals and the Secretary of Defense. When the suit and tie crowd in Washington proposes a high-risk mission, they look to you for the ultimate reality check. You are the man who has to tell a politician, "Sir, that plan looks great on a PowerPoint, but it's going to get every one of my men killed." You've become a strategic asset. You spend your nights looking at satellite feeds and your days navigating the shark-infested waters of Pentagon bureaucracy. You're the one who decides which squadron gets the next multi-billion-dollar tech upgrade and which missions are worth the risk of a national scandal. But there's a loneliness at the top. You are the godfather to 300 operators who look at you with a mix of awe and fear. You know the unthinkable secrets, the missions that went so wrong they'll never be declassified, and the targets that were neutralized before the public even knew they were a threat. You've moved from the world of tactical violence to the world of global consequences, but as you look at the stars on your collar, you realize that the most dangerous game isn't fought with the enemy. It's fought within the halls of power, where your reputation is the only shield you have left. The battle for the soul of the unit is no longer fought in the valleys of the Hindu Kush or the back alleys of Mogadishu. It's being fought in soundproof studios in Austin and Los Angeles. It's the old guard versus the new breed, the quiet professional versus the podcast king. On one side of the hallway at Dam Neck, you have the Master Chiefs, men who have spent 20 years in the shadows, whose names will only ever appear on a classified manifest. To them, the trident is a sacred trust. To speak of the work is to betray the brothers who didn't come home. They believe that once you start selling the lifestyle, you stop being a warrior and start being a product. On the other side, you have the young operators looking at the exit. They've seen their predecessors struggle with broken bodies and mounting medical bills, while the government they bled for moves onto the next generation. They see the podcast kings making millions by telling war stories and selling tactical coffee. To them, the quiet professional code is a relic of a pre-internet age that leaves veterans forgotten, and bro, this friction is tearing the community apart. Every time a former operator goes on a 3-hour deep dive about a redacted operation, a piece of the unit's mystique dies. The enemy is listening, the world is watching, and the Master Chiefs are left wondering, when everyone is a celebrity, who is left to do the actual work in the dark? You're witnessing the commercialization of the world's most elite killers, and for many, the price of this clout is far higher than any book deal could ever cover. You can wash the Afghan dust off your boots. You can scrub the blood of an insurgent off your HK-416, but you can't wash the images out of your retinas. This is the part they don't put in the recruitment videos. The invisible tax of being a tier 1 operator. For years, you've mastered the switch. You've flipped it to on to survive the breach, and off to kiss your children goodnight. But after a decade of high-intensity deployments, the switch starts to stick. You find yourself sitting at a suburban Thanksgiving dinner, looking at your family and feeling like an alien. You aren't dad anymore. You're a predator in a room full of prey, scanning the windows for snipers and the doors for threats, while your wife asks you about the grocery list. The adrenaline that once made you a god now burns you from the inside out. It's called operator syndrome. It's a toxic cocktail of traumatic brain injuries from explosive breaches, hormonal burnout, and the crushing weight of the 22 veterans who take their own lives every single day. In the unit, the quiet professional code is a double-edged sword. It keeps the secrets safe, but it also keeps the pain buried. You don't ask for help because help sounds like weakness, and weakness gets your brothers killed. You carry the ghosts of the men you've eliminated and the brothers you couldn't save in a locked box in your mind. But eventually, the box gets too full. You realize that the most dangerous enemy you've ever faced isn't waiting in a dark alley in Karachi. He's staring back at you in the mirror at 3 a.m. wondering who is left behind the mask. You have reached the absolute apex, the Command Master Chief. In the entire world, there is only one of you for the entire development group. You are no longer a man, you are the institutional shield. If the Master Chief is the soul of the squadron, you are the guardian of the entire unit's existence. At rank 8, your office isn't a kill house, it's a boardroom. You spend your days in the tank at the Pentagon or in classified SCIFs beneath the White House. You are the only person who can walk into a rear admiral's office, close the door, and tell him his strategy is a disaster without blinking an eye. You are the voice of 300 of the world's most dangerous men, and you are the only one they trust to represent them in a world of politicians and bureaucrats. The burden at this level is tectonic. You have to navigate the impossible choice. How do you keep the unit lethal and ready for the next level 0 threat, while the politicians in Washington are looking for someone to blame for the last mission's headlines? You are the one who has to play the political game to ensure your men get the funding, the classified tech, and the legal cover they need to operate in the shadows. You've seen the unit change from a small group of rogue warriors in the 80s to a global strike force today. You've buried more brothers than you can count, and you've carried the secrets of 5 different presidencies. You are the final gatekeeper. You know that the unit is only one bad headline away from being disbanded, and you are the only thing standing in the gap. But as you look toward the exit, you realize that the hardest mission isn't the one you're on. It's figuring out how to leave the shadows behind without losing yourself entirely. You've survived the breaches, the IEDs, and the political sharks of the Pentagon. You've reached the top of the world's most elite unit. Now comes the mission that breaks more men than any combat deployment, the transition. For 20 years, you were a tier 1 asset. You were the shadow in the night, the hand of the president. Now, you're just another guy in a polo shirt standing in line at the DMV. The silence of a suburban Sunday is louder than any flashbang you've ever thrown. In the unit, every second had a purpose. Every movement was calculated. Now you have 12 hours of free time, and it feels like a death sentence. You find yourself at the grocery store, subconsciously slicing the corners of the cereal aisle. You're scanning the faces of the people around you, looking for threats that aren't there, while they complain about the price of eggs. You feel like a wolf trying to live in a dog park. People thank you for your service, but they can't possibly understand the weight of what you've done. How do you explain to a neighbor that you've seen things that would haunt their nightmares for a lifetime? You miss the adrenaline, you miss the clarity of a high-stakes raid. Most of all, you miss the men who knew exactly who you were without you having to say a word. The monster you created to survive the dark corners of the world doesn't just go away when you hand in your badge. He's still there, sitting at your dinner table, wondering why the world is so quiet. You realize that you didn't just leave a job, you left an identity. And now you have to figure out how to be a human being again, in a world that feels far more dangerous than any war zone because it has no rules. We've traveled from the mud of Hell Week to the halls of the White House. We've seen the high-tech goggles, the titanium-capped K9s, and the heavy burden of command. But at the end of the day, what is the legacy of SEAL Team 6? It's not the books, the movies, or the tactical gear you can buy online. The real legacy is the silence. It's the disaster that didn't happen. It's the hostage who was rescued while the world was looking the other way. It's the threat that was neutralized 3,000 miles away before it ever reached your front door. To the kid watching this, thinking about the glory, know that the trident is not a trophy. It is a debt. You pay for it every day with your sweat, your sanity, and eventually your anonymity. To wear it is to accept that your greatest achievements will never be cheered, and your greatest sacrifices will never be known. You will be a ghost, protecting a world that will never truly understand what you do. The unit exists because the world isn't a safe place. It's a dark, messy, and violent arena that requires men who are willing to be more violent than the monsters they hunt. We are the quiet professional. We are the insurance policy for Western civilization. We come in the night, we do the work, and we vanish before the sun rises. Freedom has a flavor the protected will never know. It's a flavor bought and paid for by the men of the development group. As you turn off the screen and go back to your life, remember this. You sleep peacefully in your bed because rough men stand ready in the night to visit violence on those who would do you harm. We were here, we were there, and we will always be in the shadows, always be in the